One of the ways that you can get to a solution in a dream is by taking the dream out into waking life and making a decision about what would you do in that situation.
Every dream is a great dream because it teaches us something about ourselves.
Absolutely. And a nightmare is never, ever a nightmare once you understand why you had that dream.
My name is Alan Steinfeld, and my program is called New Realities. Each week I go deep into the understanding of how we can start to change the planet, how new ideas can be presented to the world to unfold a greater civilization. Welcome to New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and I'm so happy to be here with Layne Dalfen. She's a dream analyst, and we're going to go deeper into the world of dreams. So thank you, Layne. What is so interesting about you is your field of study. You've really looked at dreams and
I have.
And how did you get started? I mean, you're sort of a regular person, you know, you're doing your thing. Why dreams? What was so exciting about it? And how'd you get into it?
First of all, I should say that I'm a dreamer. I have great dream recall, and I've been that way my whole life. And when I was, I got married at 19, and when I was 21, like 2 weeks after I turned 21, I had my first of 4 daughters. And
you have 4 daughters?
4 daughters and 2 granddaughters.
Okay.
And my first daughter, Tina, was born with Down syndrome.
Okay.
And when I was 20, I had no idea. I'd never even heard of Down syndrome. And so my parents didn't want to advise me in any way, because this was 44 years ago. So 44 years ago, most people didn't take their Down's baby home.
They put him on
in an institution, exactly. And so my parents said, if you take Tina home, we support you. If you want to give her up, we support you. And I needed advice, so I went to the doctor, who was my doctor since I was a little girl, and he advised me, don't think about it, give her up, and hurry up and get pregnant again. Don't think about it, don't talk about it, have her placed, and that's that. And he even had her placed. I didn't even know where she was.
Oh.
And about and she was born very small, so she was in the hospital for a while. And so about 2 months later, I woke up one day crying, and I couldn't stop.
But weren't you upset?
I became depressed.
Weren't you upset at
the beginning?
Yeah.
From the beginning, of course. It was horrible, but I just mean that at the very first, I was able to cry and stop. But then then it became like I had to go for help. Oh. And I was very fortunate to obtain the care of a brilliant Freudian psychoanalyst who actually was trained and worked in the prison system in New York. So the guy was brilliant. And so I used to go to the appointments with the shrink, and I wasn't able to articulate my feelings at 20 the same way as I can today, but I'm a dreamer. Right. And so he did probably about 80% of my psychoanalysis, because I would arrive at the office always with a dream. So that was the first place. So I
So you
learned
dreamed your whole life, but you'd never realized the importance of it.
Right, and I never knew how to analyze a dream. So my experience with Freud was that I did Freud before I studied him. I experienced him.
With this analyst. He helped you understand your dreams.
Totally. And so that was the first place that I learned that actually we are problem solving in our dreams, and the solution comes. So before I go ahead and tell you what else I did, where it led, I want to interrupt myself and tell you that I had, in those, maybe after I was there for about a month, I started having a recurring dream about a freight elevator. So my dreams were all different, but they always took place in a huge freight elevator with a wobbly floor, and I'm always in there alone. So let me just ask you, solution-wise, one of the ways that you can get to a solution in a dream is by taking the dream, the picture in the dream, out into waking life and making a decision about what would you do in that situation. So I'm just curious to ask you.
No, do that.
what would be your solution to the freight elevator dream? What would you do in waking life?
Yes.
If you're alone in an elevator with a wobbly floor, you literally don't feel your ground, because I wasn't feeling my ground. And that was the image about that. But there's no place to hold on because the space is too big.
I would sit down on the floor, maybe.
Excellent. And now I want to ask you, are you the style of person that when crisis hits your life, are you a style of person who reacts immediately quickly, or do you sit down and say, wait a second?
Yeah, I'm
going to think about...
I can react quickly, but I generally just sit down and think. Yes.
And the dream reflects who we are. It always reflects who we are.
But how did you react to the freight?
My response to the freight elevator dream, first of all, I had to get in touch with what is wobbly in my life and what is making me feel like I don't have my ground. And it was the fact that I had no idea where Tina was. Who is she? I had a daughter. Like, where is she? I want to know her. And this thing about not seeing her again, it doesn't work for me.
Did that represent the freight elevator?
Exactly.
But how did
So my solution to the freight elevator dream was to bring people into the dream. Because if you bring a lot of people into the freight elevator, you put weight on the floor and the floor stops wobbling. And also there's people there. So you're not in a big wide space by yourself.
So how would you stop the freight elevator from wobbling? You would bring more people in.
That's right. So that's what I did. In a metaphoric way.
What do you mean?
I went to my parents. And I said, it's not fitting for me that I don't know where Tina is. I need her in my life. Like, I may not necessarily bring her home, but I'm not going for the rest of her life and my life not knowing her.
Right.
And that freight elevator dream opened up, it changed everything because Tina became a very big part of my life.
Wow.
And she also became a big part of my later children's lives.
Wow.
Of course. We love Tina.
So the recurring dream was that you kept having that recurring anxiety.
Right, because your subconscious, when you have a nightmare, a recurring dream, or very strange dreams, that's your subconscious screaming at you, hello, could we talk about this, or could we figure out a solution? And that's how it grabs your attention, by sometimes either the scariness of it or the repetition.
You made peace with the fact
it changed my whole life because I brought Tina back into my life.
Right.
And so I finished psychoanalysis when I was about 28, 29 years old. And somebody at the university said to me, wow, if you liked Freud, you would love Frederick Perls. And I'm a style of personality.
Perls, the Gestalt guy.
Gestalt, that's right. And so I went to the Gestalt Counseling and Training Center, and I studied to be a Gestalt therapist. Although I only do dream analysis, but I learned how Frederick Perls looked at dreams. And then when I was finished that, I thought, what about Alfred Adler? How did he look at dreams? So I went to the Alfred Adler Institute, and I took specific courses with Dr. Leo Gold, who's also a New Yorker, on how did Adler look at dreams. And then I became a member of the C.G. Jung Society. And then I became a member of the International Association.
So you have the Freudian approach, the Jungian approach, the Gestalt approach, and the Adler
Exactly.
approach. How do you know, or you combine all of these?
All of them. And they didn't have, the fathers of psychology didn't have to argue. Because you can take the same dream, and this is what I do in my book. I took the same 6 or 7 dreams that run throughout the whole book. I didn't give 25 dreams. I only gave 6 or 7. And I looked at those same dreams from every different perspective. And you always get a prize.
They all mean different things from different perspectives, or do they all have similar solutions from the different perspectives?
They're different. They're different, but they're all good. All of them are good. And I think all of it is good. Like, poor Andy, I'm going to talk about him again.
Yes.
But, if Andy dreams that, Andy, my husband, yes. He's a style of person that if he was flying on a cow last night, he doesn't want to talk about how that reflects his early childhood relationship with his mother. He doesn't want to do the Freud thing, and he doesn't have to. He just wants to know, why was I flying on a cow last night and I have to go to work? So he doesn't want to push the dream aside. He wants to understand it, but he only wants to go to the first level to attach the dream to the very specific current issue that he's attempting to probably. I'm just saying, that's the first level.
The first level is, what's the current issue?
And lots of people, and what's wrong with that? If somebody, not everybody wants to go deep. Even if you do that, it's great.
But what are the other levels?
Well, then you look at, so here's a guy who was dreaming that he had a string stuck at the back of his throat, and it's a very small dream. He's just pulling on a string, and every time he pulls on it, he feels like gagging, but he doesn't stop pulling. So it's about getting something out of his mouth.
Oh.
It's about, so now we realize, okay, the dream, he has this dream because he's got to say something to his girlfriend. It's not working out, and he's holding it in. So the dream is giving him a rehearsal of pulling the words out of his mouth to express himself.
Right.
Now, if we want to go deeper, he wants to go deeper, I'm going to use Freudian free association, which is fantastic. It's the same thing as picturing, you picture a big bingo, you know, the big ball from bingo with all the balls bouncing
Yeah, they
around?
go into a little slot,
And
yes.
so I ask people, like him, for example, just close your eyes for a second and take a couple of nice cleansing breaths and trust yourself that the right memory is going to pop up. And I ask him, this thing about feeling that you want to say something and you're holding yourself back, tell me a situation from way back that makes you feel a certain way. So give me an example of when he was 15, 20 years old. And I say, that's a great example. Now, could you go a little farther back? Pick another one. And the right ball, the right bingo ball, always pops out.
So he finds a situation where he couldn't speak.
From childhood. That's right. And now that I understand, now that he's given himself, not just me, he's given himself an example of the link, because every single memory and association that you have ever had in your whole life since you're born is sitting there in your subconscious. It's your filing cabinet, and it belongs only to you. It's your database. And so you whatever happens today, you have this vast database that opens up where you can choose any of the memories, associations, people that you bring into the dream. And so once I ask the dreamer, tell me a story from when you're a child, what does that get us? He names the situation that it reminds him of. And now we get the opportunity to say, but is this situation with your girlfriend the same as the one from when you were 7?
And he says,
and then
yes.
Well, it feels the same, but my response is not appropriate. As an adult, rejudge how you reestablish, like, here's a great example.
Yes, give me an example.
When I was 5 years old, and when my mom was alive, she heard me in a lecture. There were like 500 people in the room, and I used this as an example, and I heard my own mother from the back of the room stand up and say, I never did that to you.
She actually
Which
said
was
that?
great. Yeah, it was so funny,
That
and
is
everybody was
embarrassing.
laughing. No, it was funny because I'm just giving an example.
Okay, yes.
If when I was a little girl,
That's a bad
if
dream.
yeah, no kidding.
No, go ahead.
When I was a little girl, if I spilt water or spilt a drink, and I got in all kinds of trouble, and the message I got, even though she wouldn't say that to me, but if the message I got was that I'm an incompetent in some way, right? And now let's say I'm 45 years old, and I walk by my desk, and I spill papers all over the floor. And the first thing I say to myself is, you're such an idiot. You're so clumsy. And that's the inner voice.
That's your mother.
How we talk to each other. Right,
yes,
because we've been conditioned that way.
Yes.
So if I have a dream, right, and I realize the dream is about the fact that I'm so upset with myself and I think I'm an incompetent because I spilled papers off my desk, right, if I just talk to myself that way. And then I link it, because it's a link. I link it to the situation with my mother from those years ago that made me feel in a similar way. Now, as an adult, I could say to myself, if I had a kid who was around 5 or 6 years old, who spilt water, would I think that person is an incompetent? Would that person be an incompetent?
No.
Of course not. So as an adult, I get to revisit with no judgment or anger to the parent. They're only doing their best. But I just mean to say, if I can now, today, revisit that situation and make a new judgment about it, then the next time I spill something on the floor, my knee-jerk reaction will still be, oh my God, you're such an incompetent.
It will, your knee-jerk reaction.
But then you stop yourself and say, wait a minute. And now you're in the gym for the first time, exercising that new potential, that new muscle that you have about re-looking at yourself.
The dream, of course, can refer to what's happened just recently, or it could be patterns in your life.
That's right. And also you used Philadelphia in your dream from the last segment.
Yes.
And I was able to ask you, well, what is it about Philadelphia? And you related to something from the past.
Yes.
And yet you were using Philadelphia in today's dream, even though your memories and associations and feeling about Philadelphia is from back there. You opened up your database or your filing cabinet.
Or all my series of associations and pulled one that
fits.
That fits a certain feeling.
That's right.
That makes me associate to the dream in a certain way.
That's right.
I see. But what other levels are there? I mean,
well, that, you know, then because we already talked about, okay, so here, let's talk about another level.
Okay.
Another level is, and this part, all the fathers of psychology actually agreed on what I'm about to say.
Okay.
All the parts of the dream represent different parts of you. You are the actors, you're the director, you're the producer, you're the sound guy, you're everybody.
And you're each person in the dream as well, right?
That's right. When we come into the world, we come in whole. Yeah. We have every potential to be giving, to be selfish, to be heroic, to be chicken. You have everything. And because you become over-exercised, because of our parents and our learning, because you become over-exercised in certain aspects of your personality, then your under-invested aspects or under-exercised, or Carl Jung called them your shadows, that's what happens in the dream. You pick the part that you relate most to, and you give out all the other parts of the dream to different people, places, and things. But they all represent part of you. So if I dream about my aunt who died 15 years ago, who I consider to be a very, very assertive person, I'm not connected to an assertive part of myself in that certain situation that I described.
Elements, so everything in your life becomes a symbol or a feeling, and then in the dream it's drawn upon, and you are then relating to those symbols of your life.
And you can take them back.
What do you mean take them back?
You can, because like I did in that story with my aunt, and I was in a situation where I wasn't speaking up for myself. So I dream about this very assertive person, and I take back an aspect of my potential, my personality that I was born with, and it's there. But because it's so unfamiliar to me and so unexercised, she plays the part of my potential to speak up for myself.
Oh, so parts of our dreams are...
And now I know I need to get closer to her. Like, you know, I'll just say this to wind up that piece.
Yeah, tell me.
Is that the goal you want is I always want to encourage the dreamer to get closer to the part of the dream that scares you the most, or that you are the most uncomfortable with.
Or has the most conflict in it, right?
That's right. That's the other very important thing I don't want to miss.
Yes.
Is that human beings are self-regulating organisms. So whatever it is that you're underreacting to, the dream is going to overreact. And that's the nightmare, the recurring dream.
Wait, so nightmares
are
what?
It creates a balance.
Why do people have nightmares usually?
Because there's something they're underreacting to in their waking life.
You mean not reacting to that they should be.
That's right. And
so the nightmare stirs it up?
The nightmare stirs it up, and it accomplishes two things. One thing it does is it automatically creates a balance. And not only does it create a balance, but hopefully it grabs your attention and encourages you to talk about whatever the situation is. Oh. It's like if you have to pee, you can hold it in, hold it in, hold it in, but at a certain point, it's got to come out.
So the nightmare is the stuff you've held back
and it lets the air out of the balloon.
People should call you. Call Layne when you have a nightmare.
Haveagreatdream.com.
And that's what I love about you, because every dream is a great dream because it teaches us something about ourselves.
Absolutely. And a nightmare is never, ever a nightmare once you understand why you had that dream.
So
never.
Dreams of premonitions, that's not in your, like when you dream about the future, that's usually about the present.
Well, you know, on a professional level, the only thing I do is dream analysis.
Yes.
So if I have to come to New York on a business trip and leave all those lovely daughters and granddaughters behind me, and my son-in-law too.
Yes, of course.
If I leave them behind, I'm probably not going to dream about my mother. I'll probably dream about my father, because he represents the business, take care of business aspect of my personality, as opposed to my mother, who would represent my maternal side, who stays home with the family. Right. So I dream about my father just before I get on the, you know, just before I'm going to leave to New York on business, and I'm separating from the family. So I'm connected to accessing what I need, the business side of myself, that male business side of myself that I, you know, and so not to say that the woman side of me is not also very businesslike, as I am. No, but I just mean to say that maybe I use my father as a metaphor. Now, how do you and I know that it's not really my father in the dream, that he's not visiting me? We don't. So professionally, I would talk about the psychological reason why he's in the dream and what part of the personality your father represents for you. But on a spiritual level, I absolutely believe that sometimes my dad is there to encourage me. Of course I do.
So what is so great about your work is there's so many levels to our subconscious mind and awareness.
So many.
So I'm serious. If you have a dream that you want to understand, that's confused, call Layne, Skype her, go to haveagreatdream.com.
Do a free dreaminar. You can do a free dreaminar on YouTube. There's lots of things that happen at my internet site, which is haveagreatdream.com, because for me, all dreams are great, especially when you understand them. There's lots of stuff going on my site, but I wanted to point your attention to two specific things because they're free. One is that most any page that you go on my site, there's a place where you can fill in your email address and your name, and if you send it to me, right now I'm offering a mini course in dream analysis, and in which you'll get 5 videos, 5 emails, and articles that come to you one a day for 5 days in a row. And when you're done with the mini course, you'll have a pretty good idea about how to analyze a dream. And another thing that I'm offering on the site is something very, very new that I've started on YouTube. Is I'm going to be offering groups as well, and there's only one group example so far, but I'm offering one-on-one dream analysis if you will agree to come with me on YouTube and find out what that crazy dream you had last night was about. And the only thing that there's a form there also. Just go to the section called Dreaminar, and if you visit my YouTube site and click on to the like or whatever you do on YouTube, but then you can take a look at all the videos that are up there, and I hope and pray that you'll call me too and do some of that online. It's a lot of fun.
I just think you're an incredible talent, Layne. And you're
so nice. Thank you.
But your wisdom and understanding of dreams and symbols, I mean, it comes to you. Can we give another example of how you figured something out that somebody didn't have any idea about? Give me an example. If someone comes to you with a dream.
I had a young woman who was dreaming that she's lives in a hut, and so not a hut, a tree house. Her house is in a tree house. She's standing below looking up, and her dad is swinging on the tree house. He's swinging higher and higher and higher, and the mom is in the house yelling at him to stop, that he's going to hurt himself. Right. And so she's nervous, and he just keeps going higher and higher. And she describes it like a Looney Tunes thing, because suddenly he hooks up with a couch, and the couch slows him down, and he does finally start to come down to earth, right. But he doesn't get down to earth. He falls into the roof of the house. And he's in perfectly good shape. He comes right through the roof. He's in perfectly good shape, but the house around him is a complete wreck. Wow. And so and then I'll even get worse. It gets worse. Okay. Because then she says that the mother, looks around the house, what a wreck it is, and gets a knife and stabs him in the back of the head. Wow. And this is the dream, because I'm giving you a real...
I would have no idea what any of this is.
In Montreal, we would say a vraiment nightmare. Like
and
in
Yiddish, you would say something else.
Okay. A real nightmare.
Yes.
And so
and she wakes up afraid.
No, she's looking at his brain, and she sees that where it had all the workings it should have, it ends up turning to like soup. But it turned out to be about in her opinion. Yes. This doesn't mean it's true. Right. But in this, 18-year-old's opinion, yes, her father is not carrying, he's being very immature. Right. And he's a child, and he's not taking up enough responsibility in the relationship with her mother. She sees her mother as more responsible in the marriage than the father. So of course, she sees him as a kid. That's why he's on a swing. Oh, that's why she's talking about Looney Tunes. That's why he doesn't even look down. He just keeps swinging higher and higher, with the mother screaming in the background. And what happens when he does come in? He doesn't go all the way down to earth, because she says he's irresponsible and he's a child. Right. So he lands in, and he doesn't even have the awareness, the guy, doesn't even in her opinion, doesn't even have the awareness of his childishness. And that's why he lands in the house and he's perfectly fine. But everything around him is a wreck, because in waking life, the couple is arguing, and the children are hearing the arguing, and that's why the house is a wreck.
So that makes sense why she had that. So give me that other group.
And the other thing too, I was saying, is that when you just want to get something into somebody's head. Yeah. You ever hear that expression?
Oh, get
like, what do I have to do to get through to you? To get into your head.
To get it in your head.
To get it in your head. Your thick skull. Yes. So that's what the mother's doing.
Oh.
But so before we left each other, I asked her, because this was positively frightening nightmare, and I asked her, is it still a nightmare? Because I already knew the answer. She thought it was so funny, the images that she used. And of course, she said, oh my goodness, so it's not a nightmare once you understand what the heck you're saying to yourself.
That's so good. Wow.
Yes.
So tell me that other group.
About a group. A television producer, this is the way, as opposed to one-on-one, which you and I did. I know. This is a group situation. Right. And a group situation, this television producer, she said that she's in her panties. She's in her bedroom, in her panties, and she feels a splinter at the bottom of her foot. So she sits down in the dream on the side of the bed and picks up her foot, and she squeezes out the splinter, and a piece of glass falls out onto the bed. And right behind the glass, she says that bugs fell into a pile on the bed. And that's how she woke up, with the bugs dispersing all over the bed. Right. And so now she has said the dream. So the first dreamer, because this is what happens in a circle, first participant in the group says, if this was my dream.
And that's what you do with a group dream. You say, if this was my dream.
I even do it one-on-one. Right. Because really only the dreamer knows what the dream is about.
But the first guy says.
If this was my dream, I would have a dream like this if something was really under my skin. something's hurting me. It's under my skin. He's using play on words.
Yes.
And he says, but I don't feel good, but I don't know why I don't feel good. I'm in a mood, but I don't know what the mood is about. And that's what would spur me to have a dream about a splinter, because you can't really see it. You can feel it, but you can't really see it.
That's great.
And the next person says, if this was my dream, not only would it be about something that's under my skin and hurting me, I would have to get it out right away. Because I'm a style of person, she said, that if something is under my skin and hurting me, I can't keep it back. I've got to get it out. And if I had a splinter, I'm the same way. I would have to get the splinter out. The third person, using real play on words, says, if this was my dream, I would have a dream like that if something was bugging me. And the fourth person says, if this was my dream, not only would it be about something that's bugging me, but it would be that I have been letting what's bugging me pile up. Because she said the bugs fell into a pile on the bed. So now we go back to the dreamer, who's listened to everybody's projections.
Yes.
This is what the dream was about. She produces a show that airs at 9 in the morning, and every day she's in the studio for like 7:30. So she's up at like 6 in the morning. But her husband has been starting a new business, and she's been helping him get it off the ground. And the night before she had the dream, they were sitting around the dining room table past midnight, with all these different people that are working on the business with him.
Right.
And when the meeting was over, he thanked everybody around the table except her. And even one of the men at the table said, you didn't thank your wife.
Right.
And so that's not the first time that that's happened, that he hasn't even shown some appreciation and thanked her for this extra work that she's doing for him. But she hasn't, she's been letting what's bugging her pile up. But when they got into bed that night, that's why the dream takes place in her panties on the bed. Because when they got into bed, she got the splinter out. She told him that it's bothering her that he hasn't been thanking her. He's not acknowledging the help that she's giving. And so the lesson of that dream, there's 2 lessons in the dream. Don't let your what's bugging you pile up.
Good.
And don't be afraid of your feelings, because the bugs are all over the bed, and she wakes up like freaked out that there's these bugs all over the bed.
The human psyche is so
amazing,
so complex, and so full, and life is always presenting us with possibilities.
And I love a group, because I only have one group Dreaminar up on YouTube, and it was a pilot.
Let's do another Dreaminar.
Oh, I would do a Dreaminar with you in a minute.
Let's do a Dreaminar.
Absolutely, I'm coming back, and we're gonna do a Dreaminar.
I just love, I love how smart and clever and insightful.
We have a good time together. You are also very smart, my dear.
Well, I enjoy, but thank you for coming today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, really
and I'm going to take you up on that Dreaminar.
I
love it.
I love listening to symbolic illusions, and it always makes sense.
Yes, it does.
You know, so have a great dream, because every dream's a great dream.
And haveagreatdream.com.
Oh, haveagreatdream.com. I'm Alan Steinfeld for New Realities. If you want to reach me, go to my website, newrealities.com. Haveagreatdream.com. Layne Dalfen. Do like a Skype session with her, and
that's it.
It's very, very helpful and insightful.
Thanks so much, Alan.
Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for watching New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld. If you want to reach me, go to my website, newrealities.com. And for Layne Dalfen, it's
haveagreatdream.com.
Because every dream is a great dream. Thank you.